And we are live, bro. We are
Okay,
live. Yeah. Today is Tuesday, the 1st of March. We are live on
what up, what up,
Twitter,
what up?
and on YouTube. Please join us and make yourself heard, ask questions. This is Agbarapa, this is Campbell.
This is TJ.
Welcome back. So, today we are going to be talking about magicians and kings. Very interesting topic. Very interesting stuff. And we're going to be talking about Kanye, one of the most influential, I would say, urban magicians right now. And Putin, Rasputin, Vladimir Putin, one of the most influential kings right now, waging war on Ukraine, bro. How do you feel about that?
I think it's the one of the most. I think that when I have an issue in my life
Yeah.
that is that needs to be mastered. For example, I may be very driven. I may be very efficient in one or two or three or four departments in my life, but maybe
Yeah.
I'm lacking in one department and it's not mastered very well.
Yeah.
The worst thing I can do is maybe damage and destroy the lives of one or two people around me.
Hmm.
But when a man like Putin has some deficiency, um, which I would identify in this scenario as um, he has not mastered his ego.
Hmm.
When he has a deficiency, you know, nations shake and women and children pay with their lives.
Hmm. You are right, but if I may add, do we have the full story to this?
Okay, everything in me
Yeah.
is saying, what story do we need?
Hmm.
I mean, um, uh, I think I understand why Putin is waging war.
Okay.
I understand his motivations, just like I understand like a bank robber's motivations to rob a bank. But I don't agree with his actions. I don't
Hmm.
agree with the steps that are being taken. Um, there will be somewhere, some point, some silver lining out of it. But I don't think it's a case where, you know, Ukraine are doing anything. Ukraine are just functioning in their best interest as they see fit,
Yeah.
and so is Russia. And it just so happens that the leadership of Russia is, they're about that life.
Hmm.
They're about it, and I see it as very unnecessary. I think Putin could retire with his legacy, with his billions. I mean, not that he necessarily can retire. That's another subject. The
Yeah.
power vacuum, all of that. What I'm saying is, I don't think he. I don't think ultimately anything other than his personal ego um, feels under threat by the
Bomba
actions
clot!
of Ukraine. Unless you're going to enlighten me on some super conspiracy, something that I have not considered. Um,
So that's actually spicy. It's spicy the way you're putting it. Let's set a table here, okay? And we're trying to tackle all things spiritual, all things sexual energy, and I'd like to start with the four European archetypes, and then we'll dive into. We're just gonna make it short. We'll talk about this later on, but we're gonna talk about Western archetypes, and then subsequently we're gonna talk about African archetypes. And in the Western archetypical universe, so if you are just joining us now and you would like to know what archetypes are, you'd have to listen to our previous recordings. But the Western archetype divides this world into four: the king, the magician, the lover, and king, magician, lover. I'm missing one. TJ, help me.
The Jester, the Joker.
That would still be a magician.
Oh, okay.
And the
Hold on.
warrior. Yeah, the
And the
warrior.
Warrior. Yeah, that's it. And the Warrior.
Yeah,
That's it.
king, magician, um, warrior, and yeah. Ugh, this
Now
is
we miss
terrible.
another one.
This is terrible. Anyway, so in these four are in each one of us. Each one of us, is able to
The
display
Lover,
exactly the lover. Yeah, each one of us
Lover,
is.
King, Warrior, Magician. Lover, King,
That's it.
Warrior,
We got
Magician.
all of them. We got all four.
Yeah.
Let's keep them together. We can display all four at every given time according to our needs. Okay,
Can I
so
just interject quickly?
please do.
Is this pagan historic? Is this pagan historic history?
So we don't want to put cliches on what is paganism, what is Christianity, because there's a lot of cliches around this. What is good is is Christian, and everything else is pagan. But
I
it
don't mean
is
it like I don't mean it like that. I mean like the origins of this,
a
like,
pre Judeo Christian. Yes,
and they're
Bomba
European.
clot.
exactly. Yes.
Okay, so this is definitely. I mean, this is definitely will have some crossover with what we were discussing before the live stream, which
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
the film the film called The Green Knight,
The Green
which
Knight.
I recommend everyone to watch. But maybe we'll go into that on a different date.
We'll definitely have to talk about that some other day. Definitely. But yeah, coming back to my point, um, these four archetypes um, can be displayed in each and every one of us. Some people are actively aware of these personalities within themselves, and others are not. And those who would be able to master these would be called adepts, initiates, as we've talked about in our previous recordings, these people would also be the people high up in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the self actualized people, the people running things, okay? They know what's going on. So, Putin, let's come back to Uncle Putin, yeah? He he is displaying the king archetype, authority, okay? He knows what he wants and he goes after it. Now, I will tell you what I have found, what I have read here and there, and then you will tell me. And if there are any historians that can jump online, write a comment, correct us. Yeah, just yeah, let us know. So after the World War, the Second World War, and everyone can look this up. The major players of the war, so the West and Russia, because we don't have to forget that I think Russia was the country that lost most members out of the Second World War trying to stop Nazi Germany. Okay,
Right.
so after the end of Second World War, they came to an agreement that the Russia or the ex-Soviet Union was going to run the East part of the world. They're going to handle that part. America and the winners of the war, Britain, France, and the other Canada and all the other guys are going to run the western part of things. Okay, and they're going to have their ideology and all of that stuff there. But as for, let's say, during the Cold War and coming into the modern age, so I would say late 80s, after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 89 into the 90s, the West has been issuing invites to ex Soviet blocs to join NATO. And we know that NATO is just another word for America in Europe. Basically, America run things through NATO. Okay.
Mm.
Are you following me? I know this is a bit.
I am following.
So now Russia has been seeing this as a disrespectful act, and this is also not going in accordance to the pact. There's a name to this pact. I watched all of this stuff. I did all my research, but right now I can't remember any of it. But they literally had a verbal pact where they came to an agreement that America wouldn't cross over into the Eastern Territory and try to recruit, you know, former Eastern Soviet countries into NATO. And
At the risk of sounding vastly ignorant,
yeah,
is any of this to do with the
Bomba
Magna Carta?
clot!
uh, I think the Magna Carta is dated way before that. I don't know. I'm also just. I think the Magna Carta was with King John in regards to something to do with corporations and business and handling of money. I don't know.
Um, so what is okay, let me ask it another way.
Okay.
Is this the agreement that was wrapped up in the whole that left us after the World War saying that the Jews can go to Israel?
Uh, no, I know what you're talking about. Oh, is that the Magna Carta?
That's why I thought the Magna Carta included,
I have no clue,
but
but I've
I
heard
could be
of
wrong.
that. I've heard of that through the
Could
former
be
mayor
wrong.
of London, Livingstone.
Right.
But I don't think that is the case. They're talking about something else. Yeah, I think it was. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
No,
look all
you're
this
right.
stuff up.
Magna Carta is King John.
Is it King John? Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm totally messing up everything.
bro, we don't do. We're just
But
jumping
there,
on this for a living. So,
but there is an agreement about that after the Second World War.
but it's verbal according to my sources. It's not written.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
a verbal agreement where the West and the Soviet Union uh, basically come to, yeah, sit down at the table and say, look, you handle the West side of things, America, UK, and etc., and we, Russia, communists, run the eastern side of things. So anything east of the Berlin Wall will be run by Russia, by Moscow. Everything
Right.
west will be run by Westminster and Washington. Okay, so come now to the 90s. After the Cold War, America is just sending invites left and right to these ex Soviet, because the Soviet Union collapsed, okay, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And
Mm.
they're just sending invites, 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 invites. But as they're doing that, they're also placing their armies. And there is a treaty within the is a NATO agreement that once you attacked any NATO member, you automatically enact Article 5, where every other member comes to defend that NATO member. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So hence why we're seeing I can't pronounce the name of the Ukrainian president. I'm very sorry. But hence why you can see the Ukrainian president signing papers, he's signing papers to go. It's like a fast track into becoming a member of the European Union.
Right.
He literally signed that like yesterday, and yeah. Oh, our Twitter space, they just blocked us. We can't. Is this a
I think it's
conspiracy, bro?
no. It's me. It's me. I think it's me.
Oh, no
Uh,
worries. Anyway,
shall I open another one?
please do.
Uh, go on. Carry
Anyway,
on.
so what happens is that Russia is not very happy with the NATO members and the US trying to recruit Ukraine into this whole mess, because basically Ukraine sits at the very crossroads between what would be Western Europe and Putin's territory, the territory of Moscow, right?
Right.
So what do you do when you have authority, when you're self-actualized, when you have an army, when you can command? What do you do when you see your nation, your security at threat? You do what every king does. You take things into hand and you invade, because we have to be honest. It's not just Russia that invades countries. We've seen the West do it over and over and over with Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, you name it. We've seen them do this over and over and over again. Yeah, is it because it's the West that we're keeping quiet to this? Do we just play our trumpets when it's Putin? Are we still being, on this on Agbarapa, we're talking about being self-actualized. So are we still seeing things through the lens of the media? Are they still brainwashing us and telling us, look, in reality, this is what's happening? Are we only getting this version of things, or are we curious enough to see what the other version, the other side of the story looks like? And I think a lot
Okay.
of us are
So
failing to do this.
I think you're probably right. So do you consider the fact that Ukraine are at least publicly saying that they want to be part of NATO, want to be part of Europe, want to be part of the EU? Do you think that is in itself a form of invasion, cultural invasion by the West?
I think it is. I think it is because there was a verbal agreement, even though, we know that everything, they want things to be written down. Things are better respected when they're written down. But I think that these are two sovereign powers. These are two nuclear powers. They have equal veto rights. Okay. So look, if you said this to me, how are you gonna turn back and take me for idiot? It's the same thing we're talking about the other time. If you know how to be meek, you know when to
Bombaclat!
react. You know when to do things. You know when to switch. You know when to be a warrior. You know when to be a magician. You know when to be a lover. You know when to be everything. So yeah, it's one of those
Is it is
things.
it is it necessarily a bad thing? Because what I think is happening is that um, because you could say the same thing just happened in Hong Kong,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? But the thing is that having one party leading a country, having one style of running a country,
Yeah.
has ultimately been rejected by the people.
Yeah.
If 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 Russia or China were the style of leadership and style of running the country was more favorable um, to the people
Yeah.
in their eyes, then there would be no temptation for them to wish to switch. So I think it's a different. Um, I think to put the West's influence as in these cases as invasion,
Yeah.
um, the result is the same, right? So basically, you could say that if Hong Kong, if Ukraine was to stay within the jurisdiction of NATO, EU, Europe, UK, however you want to, whatever, whatever ownership you want to put around it,
Mm-hmm.
multiple one of those or multiple of those. Um, Maybe at one point it was done at the hand of the sword,
Hmm.
but now it's not being done at the hand of the sword. It's being done through um, marketing, through the structure of the system. through the perceived idea of the fake democracy, but at least it's being presented as real democracy.
Yeah.
And even if it's a fragile fake version of democracy, it's still more appealing than the no democracy um, that is presented by China and Ukraine.
Right.
And there's much more room for totalitarianism when you do not have at least a facade of democracy.
Right. So I would agree with you,
These guys are
but
spilling all the beans.
the problem is there is an illusion to choice that is being given to us for a very long time. We know that we are actually choosing within a very defined and reviewed set of choices that have been given and handed down to us. Whether you call it democracy or communism, you are still told to choose within, certain parameters. You can't go outside of those lines.
You're
Once you
still
go
guided.
outside, pardon?
You're still guided.
Exactly. So there is still an illusion to being free. Once you try to get out of these guided lines, you put back in whichever regime you're under, whether it's capitalism, democracy, socialism, or whatever. You still have to be, taken to the brain doctor, yeah, psychologist, given a few pills, reset, and get back on the cog machine. Okay. So you and I are aware of this, and our listeners as well. If you've tuned in, you're aware of this. What has happened is that I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I don't know, maybe the spirit of our ancestors guided me this way because they knew one day I was gonna have to spill these beans, cuz. So basically, there's a set of people. Now we're going in the 60s, yeah? We're going to talk about these people, and they're called the Chicago Boys. Okay. These guys are a group of Chilean economists, and they were prominent here around the 70s and 80s. And the majority of these people were educated at the Department of Economics at the University of Chicago under a famous guy called Milton Friedman. Okay. So this guy, very dubious guy, very, very, bad guy, as Donald Trump would say. Very mean guy. Okay. He's
I
an
know.
economist.
I know of Milton Friedman.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
must know his ideology, which was that capitalism must work without the influence of the state. So we do know that in the UK we are in a capitalist, system, but the state still has a hand in things. The state still dictates the price of things, minimum wage, still handles day-to-day activity. You can see more of this in
Yeah.
countries like
He's he's a free market economist
exactly. So this is
guy.
the idea that these people are literally pushing, okay, with the guise of democracy. That means that they come into your space, okay, destroy everything. Example, Iraq, Afghanistan, a lot of African countries, okay? When everything now is worth nothing, now who gets to buy? Their people, their friends,
Mm.
the ones with the big, big, big bucks. Now they bring in the money, buy up everything at pittance, okay? And of course, when the state has no say in regulating how much labor is meant to be priced, how to price communication, how to guarantee water or a minimum wage. Now, do you think these democratic and capitalists are coming to do this for you? Do you think that someone who's just bought up a whole water plant, a whole railway station, yeah, for £1 is coming now to pay workers what? Minimum wage? He doesn't flipping care, man. He's coming to get the work done because he's trying to sell shares back in Chicago on the stock market. And we're going back to the same old plague that is I think is the cancer of the West: slavery, slave labor. Okay, so they've done it everywhere. They've tried to do it in Cuba, hence why you had the Cuban War, the missile crisis. They've tried to do it in Iraq. They kind of partly succeeded, but it's still here and there. They've done it in Libya. They've done it in Afghanistan. So I think whilst everyone else was being lured into this hope of democracy, because let's say the truth, these people are really good at manipulating the media. They're really good at saying the things we want to hear. Okay, freedom of speech, freedom of education for this set of people. I don't know what you're gonna be wearing Nikes. You're gonna be eating McDonald's. We know we are influenced by these things. These people know how to manipulate us really very well. Okay,
So
so
there's a high level explanation here, which is
Bomba
on the
clutch.
surface, they're playing a game
boom,
of good versus bad in the media, like righteous democracy
yeah,
versus
Por
evil
Dios, pero esos
dictator.
tigres no son fácil.
And we should be careful before we just casually buy into that.
boom,
But the truth is that it's a very messy power play that has all sorts of hidden agendas that still results in enslavement, death, and all the rest of it.
whichever one is pulling the strings. Okay, whether it's Russia
Right.
or the West, it still
So
ends up in the same place.
the question is, right now, would you like to be in prison in Africa, or would you like to be in prison in England? Because if you're in prison in Africa, the I remember there's a story
Por
there's a
Dios, pero
story
esos
I've
tigres
got
no
of a
son
friend
fácil.
who shared a cell with a Nigerian guy, and in a UK prison.
Okay.
And my friend was feeling a little bit like depressed and down. He was he was locked up. And the other guy was like, the African guy was sharing a cell with was like whistling and chirping away, happy.
Hey,
And he was like, why are you so happy? And the
niggas,
Nigerian guy
yeah.
was like, this is not prison.
Hmm.
This is hotel.
I beg, bro.
If you want prison, go to Africa. You'll see prison. If you were in Nigeria now, you'll be fanning.
Mate.
Meaning your job as a sweet little English boy
Yeah.
would be to fan the boss of the jail cell that you are in, which would be
Okay.
riddled with 50 men
Yeah.
to a space not fit for 20 guys,
Mm.
where there's a hole there's a bucket in the corner. That's where everybody shits.
Mm.
And you want to talk about the strongest guy wins, in a hole that people have forgotten as well, because you could end yourself up there and they wouldn't even file any paperwork. No one even know where you are.
Mm.
So nobody wants to be in prison.
Right.
Nobody wants to be in prison. But I do believe that whatever Russia is doing, whatever China is doing,
Mm-hmm.
the way they're running their countries, I would prefer not to be in that system.
Right.
I mean, what other choices do we have in this world where true freedom reigns? It's not many places you would say that do not have the influence of one of those two systems.
Right. This is going really deep because I was also doing some research on this. Why do we have these two political influences? Why is one based on totalitarianism, authoritarianism, and the other based on a perceived freedom, but still under a despot? It's still the very same thing. Why are these are two currents of thought, and I'm just diverging now, but it goes into the right brain and the left brain mentality, the logical and the creative brain, hemispheres that we have. But we'll get into that another time. But the thing is, we know what it feels like. I've never lived under an authoritarian regime. I know what it feels like living under a democracy, a capitalist regime. And if I'm comparing the two, I would be lying to you. So my experience and my account is from only this one. It has a big weight on mental health. And this is what each and every one in the West keeps talking about. The numbers of suicide, the numbers. First of all, who even dictates what mental health is? What is normal? Okay, these people are still playing their trick on you. They're telling you, normal means you wake up, produce, make profit for whoever is on top, try to get on the whatever ladder is the trend at the moment, and do your rat race. That is normal. Okay, anything outside that is mental illness. You're broken. So they're still using the same tools. Maybe they're not physical, they're not coercive enough as they would be on the other side, but they're exactly the same thing. This is how we feel it in this system. Okay, and if we're talking about freedom, I mean, who even dictates what is freedom? Are we just free within a culture? Are we just displaying a Western culture so that makes us free? If we were to display a different culture within this Western culture, what would be, there's this one is a long talk, but women who wear burqas, African men who maybe sound, look, and act different, you're still judged. You're still put in place. You're still frowned on. You understand? There is still an illusion of choice. It's just another culture.
I think there has to be some rules and
Bomba
boundaries
clot. This
everywhere we go, even if those rules and boundaries are set by ourselves,
Yeah,
right?
bomba
Um,
clot. These guys are spilling
but
all the
what
beans.
what we're what we've seen is that in the places where they call themselves free,
yeah.
the most free, there is an overreach,
Mm.
and there is some sinister things behind. There's some sinister things behind that.
Hmm.
I don't know what the answer is to get away from it, other than to live mentally free,
Right,
right? That's the only thing, and that is also the solution for those living in the other side.
right.
Now, now there has to also be accompanied by a line that you will not cross, sort of socially and publicly, and that line you have to allow it not to be crossed.
Hmm.
It, um, even at the point of death,
Mm.
because if you allow certain lines to be crossed, you end up in,
Bondage.
I mean, real bondage. North Korea,
Yeah,
Stalin, Russia,
yeah,
atrocities of the 20th century.
yeah.
Um, so I think that the true way to look at how something like Nazi Germany happens is that it creeps further and further slowly beyond the line,
Yeah,
and it goes past a line, and we've seen these lines being crossed right now in the West,
that's it.
like enforced enforced um enforced jabs,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Using coercive methods.
two more steps down the line,
Mm-hmm.
and if we just let that go, then two more steps down the line, you could be in a situation where everybody gets jabbed a concoction of drugs that we don't even know what they are.
Boom.
Men, women, and children, and that becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And then two more steps from there, you can that kind of decision can lead to things like concentration camps,
Yeah.
gulags,
Yeah.
real like devastating oppression. And that happens with even a left ideology or a right ideology. So if we say Hitler's on the right,
Yeah.
Stalin's on the left, and I believe that's right. Is that right? Yeah. And
Stalin would be a left. Yeah.
Stalin is you're talking about 6 million Jews being killed in concentration camps.
Yeah.
The number for Stalin is like 10 million.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that world, so I need to be free in my mind in a way, in certain aspects.
Right.
Self-actualized, live in the moment, enjoy family, enjoy all these things, and don't get too wrapped up in this stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when certain boundaries are crossed,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be willing to stand on those things. The sad and devastating thing is that we now have very little means to be united in our stance. Because we are easily disrupted by social media, misinformation, and the art of non-linear warfare, which I know Putin specifically engages in, which is where you cause a lot of destruction, and you support all sorts of opposing views publicly as a leader.
Yeah.
And then your opponents and those that would tear you down, they don't actually know where you stand. And they fight amongst each other, trying to figure it out, leaving you never being able to rise up in unity against the leader.
Right.
And the power that is in charge continues. So I really did think we can have World War III here. Like UK army is on the border of another country right now, aren't
standby.
they?
Yeah, there's 2,000 soldiers. Yeah,
on standby, and they're saying so if Russia takes Ukraine,
which will happen,
which I think is going to happen.
It's happening right now. Yeah.
So if Russia takes Ukraine, then the next countries along are under EU NATO control.
Yeah.
And by contract, if Russia is to make any further advancement, that will be World War.
Look, as the way I see it now, it's already World War because there's been this fast track of Ukraine's joining the EU. He literally signed the papers yesterday. It's fast tracked, okay? For the first time in history, he's literally signed something that takes 2, 3, 4 years to come together and sign and agree to. They've literally fast tracked him. Germany has boosted defense. Italy is sending troops. The UK is sending troops. This is happening in front of our eyes. But I wanted to add something to what you said before, and which was, Stalin would be on the left and Hitler would be on the right, or vice versa, which would be Labour and Conservative, or in the US would be Democrats and Republicans. In every, I would say, political hemisphere, you have these two divides, right? But if you can paint a circle in your mind and split the circle in two, okay? Right in the vertically, okay, not horizontally. vertically split the circle in two, where on one side you have the left, and the other side you have the right. Now, if you go round each half hemisphere, the very extreme of the hemisphere comes right with the other half of the other hemisphere. Do you get my point? So the very
You can
extreme,
become so left that the
exactly,
results
boom.
become the same as the extreme right.
There you go. You could want so much democracy, and we see they're bombing democracy into people in Afghanistan, into, and I keep repeating these countries. I'm not trying to play on nobody's emotions or, anything out there. It's not, but we're trying to say the fact and the things how they are. Putin has done this with Ukraine back in 2014, with Belarus, with Chechnya. This is how these people play their games. Okay, they invade, and if you have read Lao Tzu's The Art of War, there
Sun
is
Tzu.
Sun Tzu. Yes, Lao Tzu is the Tao Ching. Yeah, Sun Tzu, and I think he doesn't really number them, but there is one of the principles that says you must have the moral high ground. Okay, what happens before the West goes to war? Because we're in the West, we're not in the East. Before the West goes to war, we have propaganda suggesting ill treatment, death of women, children, elderly people. We see all kinds of things to morally arouse us, to call on them to find a solution. Okay. I was watching a video today of a young man. He must be a bodybuilder with no military experience. And
I saw it.
you saw that, yeah. He went to the Ukrainian embassy and called up to sign up. He wants to sign up. And the Sky News reporter was asking him, "What are your motivations?" And he's saying, "Look, these people, women, kids, and elderly, and they're dying. They're fighting a stronger power. They need help. We need to go. They need help." This is exactly where the West wants you to be, to give them the moral high ground. So these people have studied. They don't just do things because Omar, let's go now. No, 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 no. They make sure they have you aroused so that when they're going there and they're doing whatever they're doing, but both sides are doing it. If we're in Russia, we would be hearing exactly the same propaganda. North Korea is doing exactly. Do you understand that North Koreans think there's nothing other than North Korea? They
Well, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's not as black and white as that, but yes, I know
they
exactly what you mean.
they
They are seriously suppressed by their media.
boom.
They don't know what. I mean, the interview I saw with that girl, she never seen a map of the world. She didn't knew that black.
Right.
She didn't know that black people existed. Her primary religion. Her primary religion was the worship of their great leader.
Okay.
There's all sorts of deep. You could go on for days about that. I shed a tear listening to her.
Wow. That's
So yeah, they're majorly suppressed in the information that they have,
right.
and there's massive brainwashing tactics. For example, if the home must have a radio, and the radio cannot be switched off, and the radio continuously plays government propaganda stuff. I mean, this is the stuff of nightmares in terms of that totalitarianism, ultimate control.
Yeah.
You own nothing. Nothing can be owned,
Yeah.
including your own feces. You have to go and deposit your feces. It's owned by the state as soon as it's offloaded, because the state is in such dire need of fertilizer that you must deposit your feces. I mean, can you imagine such a state?
Look, I'll be honest with you, because I understand how these two parts are playing on the propaganda and the people's perception of things. I don't take too much from one side and not too much from the other, because they're still causing, non-linear warfare. They're still doing their thing. They're still doing what they know how to do best. So it might be a case where you absorb so much of this, of the Western point of view, that you forget that, you think you're better than them. Okay, they are paid to go and dig out, just like they did, to countries in Africa. They are paid to go and dig out the worst, the most ignorant, the most belligerent, the most inaccessible. Do you understand? It's like going to Scunthorpe and saying this is the
Yeah.
UK right now. This is the state of the United Kingdom. This is what is happening in the UK. None of us will believe that, we live here. This is not, Scunthorpe is not the UK. It's a very small part way up in the north, and, whatever you want to say about that, you can say. So, do you understand where I'm coming from? These people know how to dig out emotionally compelling, supernormal stimuli, emotionally stimuli stuff to just get you there where they want you to be. Justify violence because they're not going to dive in now. If not, what are you going to say? Say, oh, now Boris, what are you doing? Da 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 da. But yeah, get you aroused enough. See women, children. I mean, I was watching a couple videos and they were showing a woman giving birth under the rubble, a couple that was going to war despite they were just they were just married, and brothers signing up. And you see this thing they're doing. They're trying to paint the president and even the Klitschko brothers. They're reiterating the obvious. Oh, these people are mayors. Look, they're fighting. They're getting the best shots of them. Bro, they just play with our minds. It's the same thing. This is how it would be on the other side. It's just the same thing. The choice, it's all an illusion. We have no choice.
Do you
It's a,
think do you think this is behavior to do you think that the West actually wants the war?
I think they need a war. Boris needs a war. He needs to come back from this embarrassing uh, party that he's been having, all that whining that he was doing and keeping us on
But
lockdown.
this would be above that level though. This would be I mean the UK couldn't back it alone. So this would be
Oh,
something that
bro, but
Americans
they're going at it all together. You think Biden doesn't need a war? Boris, Biden, Macron, these guys are all-time low ratings. They need this for a second mandate. And we've seen this in history. Thatcher did the same thing. Bush, Clinton, they all resolved to war because there's a book that talks about this. Instinctively, we're all cavemen, okay, in the inside. So it's like, do you understand that there's a Winter Olympic game going on in Beijing right now?
yeah.
Like, are we okay? Is everything okay upstairs? We're like, do you understand? We are just tribal men at the end. We will still go to war and will cling together behind a leader because it's A against B. We need to have a side. We still need those tribal allegiances. So, you have people focusing on the Beijing Games or Team GB, Team France, Team US, and that is their world. We're still competing there. That is still going on for those who want that kind of attention. Now, for the war side of things, okay, the EU needs to, and you see the propaganda tactics that are going on. They're talking about, oh, these are blue-eyed men. These are people who are wearing designer clothes. These are not third world countries. Do you understand what's going on? They're just creating that tribal allegiance. So these are people like you. You need to side with them. You need to come to their aid. Let's not even talk about the treatments they've given to Africans, because I also understand this must be something from the ops, from the Russian side of things, from the communist side of things. They might be, because during the elections, when they meddled with the American elections, there was a lot of anti-slavery propaganda that was being pushed massively on Americans to avoid Black Americans from voting. Okay, so they are good at manipulating the African American, African side of things, whilst Europeans are really good at this kind of, uh, let's get all together, let's do something, let's send troops, let's free the people, let's give them democracy, and etc. and etc.
Mm.
So the thing is, rising to the top of the pyramid, yeah, Maslow's pyramid of needs, means that you get to have a bird's eye view of things from the top down. You get to see exactly what strings are being pulled. And we're going to talk about this afterwards after our show break. But, what are the seven deadly sins? These are the strings that keep us hooked at the bottom. These are the prison walls in China, Russia and Kazakhstan and all these countries. It might be actual shackles because maybe, the people, there is less flow of information, if I can put it that way. So, you can't really walk up to somebody and tell them to, you have to force them, you have to beat them into doing things. There are less people that are actually conscious, if I can put it that way, respectfully. Okay, whereas in the West, you have more and more people that are conscious and are able to stand for themselves. So now the prison walls have to be all illusions. They can't be physical. Like you kept saying about, North Koreans, Chinese, and Russians not owning anything. TJ, when was the last time you saw somebody owning a house? This is all mortgage, mate. It's all credit. When was the last time someone owned a car that was a 21 plate? This is all credit. You don't own it. The bank leases it to you. You miss out payments. Guess what's happening, mate?
Bomba clutch.
Yeah, it's gone.
This is all the illusion. They know exactly where to press on your ego. They know all you need is symbols of power. You need your name on that V5. That's all you need. You need to tell your friends, look at the whip I'm riding. Look at the house I just bought. They don't need to know if you own it. My name is on the contract. My name is on the document. My name is on this. Now try to buy it out.
These guys are spilling all the beans.
I see a convergence of catastrophe.
Tell me.
The convergence of catastrophe. The West is in debt. Their system is built on debt.
Yeah.
China is vying to be the next ruling empire of the globe, along with Russia. America is a wounded animal fighting to keep its position.
Yeah.
But we can say this is the new fall of Rome.
Yeah.
And technology is exploding, creating the sovereign individual. The strength, knowledge, and power of the individual has never been so high.
Right.
So the ability to control the masses is becoming an ever more complicated game.
Right.
Money is being
These guys are spilling all
redefined
the beans.
by the tech world, and none of you cannot have control. You cannot have control if you do not have control of the money as well.
Right.
So it's like holding the powers that be are trying to hold. I don't know. Like something is exploding, and you're trying to hold it in your hands.
Yeah.
And as you move a finger, you create another gap, and then stuff oozes out.
There's
and
a
as you
bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, and eventually, everything just comes out and explodes. So this when I first got into cryptocurrencies,
Yeah.
and then I started to understand what kind of change and impact this technology was ushering in, I thought to myself that this is the kind of thing wars are fought over.
Right.
And this, what we're seeing in Russia, could be could expedite the process.
To war.
And
Yeah. To reset.
like, yeah, this could be. I mean, I can't tell you exactly how it all plays out, and I guess the players don't know either exactly.
Right.
But also, we've had 3 generations that have not experienced war.
Nothing of that sort. Right. It's about
Right.
60 years that Europe hasn't had wars, altercations, nothing. Right.
Or 80 no, yeah, 80 years. I don't know, 60 years, 80 years,
Something like
40.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that also plays into it in terms of people have forgotten the lessons learned from those,
Bombaclat. These
after a
guys are
war.
spilling all the beans.
Um,
TJ and Campbell,
you have
interesting to blood
a real
clot.
bonding of the survivors.
Yeah.
You have this idea. Let's never do that again.
Right.
Right. Let it be different the next time.
Yeah.
But after 2 generations, 3 generations, like my grandmother used to collect, like she used to have a way that she kept little bits of food and stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum said it's because she's never forgotten the time of rations during the war. And she used to like take some butter, but then she would keep a little piece of the butter separate in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And it was like it's a throwback because she never forgot what it was like to have the rations, and she only got a little bit of butter or whatever.
Right.
But like my mum didn't do that practice, and I didn't even know what the practice was by the time it got to my turn. I don't keep butter separate,
yeah,
just in case. So we are at a very fragile moment right now.
That's true.
The individual is also, I think of this statement, hard times makes strong men. Or hard times make strong men. Strong men make hard times. Oh my goodness, I'm butchering it.
Hard times make strong men.
Hard times make strong men. Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men.
Right.
Weak men make hard times. So we right now are weaker. Like, I don't know. I don't think the civilian on the ground is ready for the kind of
carnage,
emotional and mental stress that it would take even just to defy. Like, we're just about trying to defy COVID sanctions,
bro.
And a lot of us ain't even doing that,
bro. Like, literally, it's just yesterday. Literally, and look at how one thing has just passed to the other without anything. You know, we're not talking about tests. These Ukrainians going through borders, and nobody's talking about, oh, we need to test them. Maybe they're cross-breeding COVID into the West. Nobody's talking about this when it was a problem, for you to even go down the store, because you might be spreading COVID. So you understand that these people are playing the same game, and we keep falling for it by siding with one and not with the other. We need to just watch and say, okay, this is time for this. When you see this, this is what I want. Okay? There's another little thing on this. Have you watched the movie Tenet?
I have.
Right. So it reads front and back. So Tenet, Rotas. Oh, I've forgotten. I learned all of this, but basically,
It's a palindrome. Is it
there
that
you
the right
go.
word?
Yes, you can read it left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom up, and it's a few words. Oh, it's Tenet, Rotas. Um, oh, forgotten it, mate, forgotten it. But basically, what it is that we're gonna talk about this stuff. But what it is that back in the olden days, uh, they believed, and it was much more evident that time rotated and cosmologically, so in the cosmos and on the timeline as we feel it on Earth, you would have a shift, okay, from one epoch to the next, right? When this would happen, they would throw a bone. They would let a few people would know, okay, right, this is happening, this is going on, right?
Are you talking about Rotas, Opera, Tenant,
There you go.
Aripo, Sator?
That's the one I'm talking about. It's all
Sator.
Latin, okay?
What is that?
What this is talking about is so you can read it whichever way, but esoterically, this was thrown to those who have eyes to see, those who have ears to hear, that a change in times is happening.
We're
This,
definitely there.
this is I'm just boiling it down. It's way more complex than this. There's a whole story to it. It comes from way before the Templars, but boiling it down to the juice, yeah, to the source, because that's what we do here at Akbarapa. It means times are changing. Whatever you see from the left, right, up, down, south is changing. There's a reset. So can you read it again? Tenet, Operas, Aripo, Sator,
So in order, it's Sator,
Sator,
Apri, Aripo,
yeah,
Tenant, Opera,
yeah,
Rotas.
right. And you see in the movie all these all these names are in the characters, in the settings, in the weaponry. I'm talking about the movie right now.
Right,
And you see how the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning, and in between they have to salvage time, which is this metal piece that keeps taking them back and forth in the timeline. So there's a
right.
reset. This is boiled down to what it is. We're gonna talk about this. This is quite complex. It's a reset, mate.
Okay, so I take it that you're gonna have a quick break.
Yeah,
Um, I'm eager to tie this back to the King and the Magician also.
we're gonna do that after our break. Stay tuned with us
Bombaclad.
and listen to our little tune from our break. Bang good. By the way, those on Twitter that are following us, they will wonder what's going on. You just got quiet.
We're still there. We're still there. We're on Twitter now.
Right, so we're back from our break, and we're gonna be talking about archetypes, mate. Archetypes,
So for this reset to happen,
right?
are you sort of saying that we need the players of the game to reveal themselves, which would be those archetypes, the aforementioned archetypes? So you will have the warriors,
right,
you'll have the kings,
yeah,
you'll have the lovers,
right,
and you'll have the what's the last?
Uh, king, magician,
The
warrior, and
magician.
lover. Yeah,
So Putin would be a king.
that's it.
Okay, but there's the idea of a virtuous king.
Yeah.
You see, when we talk about this type of archetypes, I haven't heard this grouping. I know of African archetypes, and I
Yeah.
know of Carl Jung's version of archetypes, which there are more than 4.
Yeah.
Carl Jung has, I don't know, 6 archetypes.
I went through the book, and he actually groups them in so the mother archetype, the baby, the child archetype, the trickster archetype. So 3 or 4, something like that.
Yes.
But basically, if I may, they're talking about the same thing. We need to
Mhm.
understand that culturally, every culture had to meet its own needs. Okay, so you know, in a vast tropical environment that was Africa, you can't just limit people to 4 things. There are different traits that are just manifesting themselves. So you'd have to have a bigger version of the same 4. It's literally the same thing. They might be just divided into different
Slightly different.
noticeable,
Yeah.
paths. So, but we're like the mother archetypes and the 3 major female archetypes in African religion can be grouped all in one thing. Jemaya, Oshun, and Oya, they can all be one thing. The warrior archetype can all be Ogun, Eshu, and Obatala. So they're still doing the same thing, but it's like a subtle and further subdivision of each group.
Right.
So right, coming to this now. Within us, there's a king, there's a warrior, there is a magician, and there's a lover. Okay, each of these manifests itself somehow, somewhere in different circumstances. This can be consciously or can be unconscious. Okay, so now to better understand how these play their part, we're gonna go into Hermeticism. Okay, so and this is where I would like to stress that the African reality was handed over to us through storytelling. So
Well,
these
Christianity. I mean, these things are this. What? There's a certain point where only storytelling.
right, yeah,
Right. Okay. Let me just make a quick point here.
please do.
We can create. We can talk about all of the traits that make up a great man.
Yeah,
We could talk about all of the traits that make up a great king,
yeah,
and over time, we could build up. Like, you know what, a great king is this, and a bad king is that, and a great king also does this, and a bad king. And there was this king that we heard about over here, and he was for the people, and there was that king over there. And when we amalgamate all of the greatest kings,
yeah,
we have an archetype.
boom,
When we amalgamate all of the traits, we have an archetype.
that's it.
And then what we do is we put that archetype into a story
That's it.
to demonstrate all of those traits. Or we make a story that either exposes or highlights those traits.
That's it.
And that is how we remember those principles further. That is how you instill those principles into a child, which is why a child says he wants to be Superman
Boom.
from the age of 5,
Yeah.
because he's seen the story. If you sat down with a 5-year-old and said, "Now, son, in order for you to be a good man, you need to do this, this, and this," the child is already
He's not gonna get it.
But it inspires emotion within us when we hear it wrapped in a story. It's how we remember.
That's
It's
true.
how the essence of truth gets passed forward, because we resonate with
Divine.
the part of the story, the part of the story that resonates with us the most.
Mm-hmm.
We then keep that, the integrity of that part of the story.
Yeah.
Maybe the details change around it, but the fundamental good versus evil, whatever the parameters of around that archetype's behavior, will always remain. And one of the things that I noted about this idea is that people say, the Bible's been written so many times, it's been changed, it's been this, it's been that, it's been whatever.
Yeah.
But my dad used to say when I was a kid, my dad's a very ardent Christian.
Right.
He would say, but the Holy Spirit is in all of those people and they kept the story alive.
Yeah.
Now, I would say nonsense until I understood this principle.
Yeah.
Forget your ideas of what the Holy Spirit is, or Hermeticism is, or Islam, or whatever religion is. We resonate with what is meaningful. And what is meaningful, if I told you the story of Isaac Newton and the apple falling, I could tell you it's a different name. I could tell you it's a different location. I could tell you it was a different fruit that fell. I could tell you all the different things about the story that's different. But the story is only worth telling if the essence remains the same.
That's true.
And we will resonate with the essence. And if we find that story to be meaningful, then we'll pass the story on.
That's true.
Because there's truth within it.
Yeah.
So just to build upon this idea, you see, and also I wanted to say, when Campbell says, I'm going to speak on Hermeticism, it is not that we are subscribing to one religion or not.
Please, yeah.
But we're trying, I think it's important for us not to get wrapped up in, I'm at a place right now in my life that I don't think it is worth wrapping yourself up in one religion or another.
Yeah.
Rather understanding what each religion is trying to say.
Right.
Making references across those religions, because there's many essences of truths that are built into all of them.
Right.
And trying to find the holes within each religion and bolstering them with those other things. Just to make the final analogy of martial arts.
Yeah.
There's kung fu, there's jiu-jitsu, there's karate, there's taekwondo, there's kickboxing.
Yeah.
It would be like saying kickboxing is the only way to fight.
Right. Yeah.
But actually, if you believed in that, only, you would get wrapped up in the dogma of kickboxing. You would be able to fight better than someone that cannot fight at all.
Yeah.
But if you found a guy that had mastered a martial art and then gone and looked, let's say he'd mastered Shaolin Kung Fu.
Yeah.
And then he's also gone to Japan and studied karate. Yeah. And he's adapted some of his style because he's realized there's a way to throw a punch that's more effective.
Yeah.
And then he's gone to Japan and added some grappling and judo and jiu-jitsu. And then he spent some time with mixed martial artists.
Yeah.
And then he spent some time with some capoeira guys. That guy is going to be way more well-rounded to enter into a combat. He's going to find new ideas on how to manage his mind, how to manage his body.
That's true.
And he's going to take things from every discipline and make himself a better, well-rounded fighter.
Boom.
So that's my 2 cents quickly.
That's
before you lay your table.
Yeah, the word we're looking for is syncretism.
Syncretism.
Yeah, it means taking from different religious or esoteric beliefs and now making them one. So we understand that not everyone is perfect. So the story or the tradition must have been handed down with the most important bits that needed to be conveyed. So the Africans must have had the most important bits to be conveyed in this, but they will be lacking and missing on other bits. It's not that they were not aware, but they will be lacking on what maybe the Hindu tradition has stressed on and handed it over, what the European version has, stressed on and handed over, with the North American, South American, etc., all to come, all the roads and all the religions lead to God. So they're
Plus,
all
they would have added on and weaved in the weaknesses of man, the weaknesses and the agendas of man,
right.
right? Which
Yeah,
corrupt.
yeah, yeah. It's it from the very top. I don't know. There's this game we used to play in Italy, and it was to the Whisper. So you would have a
Yes.
chain of kids that would someone at the very extremity of the chain would say something, and he'll say it down to to the various kids, and they'll whisper it in their ears to the very last one. He might say, the very first person might start with the word, I don't know, house, and the very last person would hear monkey or something of that weird. So we understand that down the line things change. That's what they are. It's our job to go back and see what the origin, what the source, what they were talking about. So
Mm.
we're going to talk about Hermeticism, and Hermeticism is literally copy for copy, word for word, African religion. Okay, every African spiritual system goes hand in hand with Hermeticism. Now, the reason why it might not be called that is because we understand all of these as principles. These are not entities, human beings, where an African would be talking about a god, a goddess, a dwarf, whatever they're saying, they're still referring to principles at a different magnitude or a different scale. Okay. So I would like to also point out that the reason why a lot of people go down to Egypt to study African spirituality is the same way that to study economics you would come to the London School of Economics and not go to Greece. Okay. Greece will still be perpetuating the same economic model, democratic, capitalism, socialism, and for whatever, but where the place where you could get the best knowledge and the best expression of this knowledge would be at the London Economic School. Same as if you wanted to learn political science and whatever, you would go to the US, because that is where it is being expressed at its highest form of expression. Okay, it's not just because these countries are practicing it. Everyone's practicing it, but these countries have just expressed it better. So Egypt, in this case, and the Hermetic science have just expressed, condensed, and given a good rendition of what every other tradition was talking about. And now I'm gonna read to you the seven laws of the universe. So basically,
Can I guess one?
please do. Let's see if you
As
can.
above, so below.
You see, you do your homework. Omo dada.
Okay.
That is one. There is mentality, vibration, polarity, gender, rhythm, cause and effect. Right.
Okay.
So now these are the principles. And I can tell you straight away, when an African, okay, in West Africa is talking about Ogun, the god of war, they're talking about cause and effect. Right?
Okay.
They're talking about the principle of cause and effect. When they're talking about Shango, they're talking about the principle of rhythm. When they're talking
Okay.
about Obatala, they're talking about the principle of mentality, and so forth and so forth and so on. Do you get my point? So these are the seven principles of the universe that the African would use for his goals, for his means. So when he's calling, when he would say, "Look, I'm calling on the archetype of Ogun because I'm angry, I want to fight." He's talking about cause and effect. He's trying to elevate himself to the point where he can react to a situation. That's it boils down to this, but then you then go into the various manifestations of things, and it gets a bit complicated. But this is all they are. This is where it all boils down to. And then now we're going to read another thing, which I think is actually is quite interesting, and that would be the seven deadly sins. Okay,
Okay.
so we're gonna see that the seven deadly sins are the cage to which these. Okay, so let's take the seven universal principles to be the highest form of these manifestations, of these principles. The seven deadly sins would be the lowest forms of these manifestations. All right.
Say that again.
So the seven universal laws will be the highest forms of human expression. If you master these, you can reach the highest form of your human expression.
The seven
Universal laws, the seven hermetic laws.
Okay, right. I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you.
Okay. Then the seven deadly sins are what keeps us at our lowest form
Right.
of
So
human
the
expression.
the principles push you towards the top of Maslow's hierarchy,
That's right.
and the sins push you to the bottom.
That's right. That's what it is. And if you can put them in direct opposition, you will see that they match. They're kind of a if you put them in opposition to the seven universal principles, you can see that they're the direct opposite. So you would have lust, the first one, gluttony, pride, sloth, wrath, greed, and envy.
Okay, so and how would you match them up?
So wrath would be action and reaction. That is a negative aspect of an action and reaction. The principle of action
So
and
that would be
reaction.
like the bully versus the meek.
Exactly. Then
Okay.
in the West, we would have, because we understand the English language also does not cover all, interpretations. So they would have their own version of wordings. So to wrath, you would have meek. To I don't know, lust, you would have love. To gluttony, you would have moderation. To pride, you would have I don't know, confidence or something like that.
Humility.
Yes, humility. Yeah, something like that. So understanding that these are the lowest manifestations of human expression, this is what is keeping us in the cage, literally. I think I forgot where I saw it said, but someone literally said social media is literally using this as a template, the seven deadly sins, to keep you attached on it.
Let me tell you
Charlie, tell me.
that social media is, bro. It's just
It's the
it's,
devil.
if there is anything that is going to keep you in alignment with the seven deadly sins today, I mean, that's it right there.
Yeah.
I don't see any other way. I feel it's an unsanctioned drug. It's an
These guys are spilling all the
unregulated
beans. TJ
drug
and Campbell, interesting to blood
that
clot, live on YouTube.
that is so it's free.
Yeah.
It's free to take.
Yeah.
And it is more destructive than any traditional drug, and you enjoy taking it just like any other drug.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't mean to but this this is of great interest to me, what you're saying, because if we can understand, it seems to me that if we can understand these principles,
Yeah.
then we can master ourselves. Which
That is yeah, the suggestion I'm making.
which would be in alignment with the thing that I was talking about when I said part of being free is being free in the mind.
Yeah.
You know, being in control of your emotions, being in control of, you know, your anger, your, you know, your lust, you know, all of these things.
Yeah.
It's just very clear. It's just very clear to me that if I was able to master all of those aspects,
Yeah.
the world just opens up to you. The world has to open up to you.
Yeah.
You know, because nothing would stop you from being successful. You would be in alignment with the principles of success.
Yeah.
You couldn't be cheated as such, because in order for you to be cheated, you have to have the desire to get, you can only swindle a swindler, they say, you know, like
there must be it must be already in them.
yes, it has to, like I say to you, listen, I've got a way for you to earn 10K in 5 minutes right now.
Yeah. They must be greedy in themselves.
Your greed is the thing that opens you to it. You don't just walk into it on your own. You know, you don't just get swindled by a guy.
There you go.
So it's anyway. I just think
it's a necessary contribution, mate. What you're saying,
if we can master those things, then we effectively can rise to the top, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially. You know,
it is literally seeking first the kingdom of God, and every other thing will be added to you. Literally,
yes.
that's what it's saying. Seek first the 7 principles of the universe, and every other thing will be added to you, because mentally you are there. You feel that way. You feel wealthy. So then it's going to be added to you. You just look like the part.
I think you need to. I think it needs to be said though in a more practical way for the skeptic that may be listening. So let's just make some very basic observations. If you want to be at physical peak, you cannot be a glutton. And I think we're all glutton to some extent. We've all experienced right, like the extra, you know, I want to eat cake and ice cream every evening. I stop myself from doing it. But you've come across people that are in fantastic shape, that have mastered the discipline around their diet. And gluttony is not just food, right? Gluttony could be gluttony in other departments. But let's just keep it simple. So you know that right now, if you're overweight, you could master your body's health by getting rid of that, by mastering that gluttony thing. Or you could delve deeper into being a gluttonous person, and that literally leads to death. So one way leads to death, and the other way leads to like you being in the best physical condition you could possibly be in. So that's a practical example right there. And then imagine that principle of discipline and mastery in the realm of finances. Imagine that in the realm of humility and pride. Right. So you add all of those dimensions, and if you're able to master all of those, you will attract people. You will become the only reason you're not achieving everything you want to achieve is because you don't do everything that needs to be done
Yeah.
at its highest level, partly because you're not capable, but and it's difficult.
Yeah.
So if you can master all of those things, you know, you become
ascend. You go up.
you ascend. You ascend.
Yeah.
Like guys that are doing social media, guys that are doing it's not social media,
Huh.
guys that are trying to build
There you
YouTube
go.
channels.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what to do.
Yeah.
I just need to be consistent.
There you go.
Guys in the gym, everybody knows what needs to be done. I just need to be consistent.
Yeah.
But we can't always. We let life get in the way. We let all this stuff get in the way.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is mastering every dimension of your being.
Yeah.
And if you can, literally the sky's the limit. And if you can't, and I guess it's a push and pull.
Yeah.
So a lot of us stay in the middle. We're not quite the worst, but we're not quite the best we could be. But you know, every so often you come across like someone
who's mastered it, someone who's either furthered where you've stopped.
They furthered where you've stopped.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they went past that limit, and you can see it. You can see, oh, what was your secret? Oh, I just kept it. I just mastered rhythm. That's it.
Right. Yeah. So let's explore this. I mean, I'll probably cut you off here majorly. But...
you know what? There isn't much to be said on this occasion, but you know, we're just exposing that these African gods, okay, what would we call gods, archetypes, are actually the 7 hermetic principles of the universe. So when, you know, for instance, they would say, oh, Shango married, I don't know, Oya, some princess, or married Oshun, or something like that, or they're telling the story of how they met and how, you know, they were able to thrive over some sort of adversity. They're talking about these 2 principles coming together to overcome wrath, to overcome pride, to overcome gluttony. Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yes.
This is
So they believe that what you should do is embody these 7.
exactly.
You should view. So you might be a Christian,
Yeah.
and you might identify groups of behaviors that the Lord has taught, God has taught, you know, you to be like, right?
Yeah.
They may be categorized slightly differently, but it's probably, you can probably categorize the same things in this 7 rules of Hermeticism.
Yeah.
And then Hermeticism has written them down as principles.
There you go.
In Africa, they've said, well, the easiest way for us to think about these things is if we make them people, if we make them beings.
Yes.
And then you act as if you are that being.
Yes.
You worship that being.
Yes.
Right. So,
but it's literally the same thing. Sorry to cut you off, but it's literally the same thing that the Egyptians did. They had Ra, Sekhmet, Right, Mat, Ma, which were literally the same thing. And they even had, you know, as you know, some Africans or some Christians, would say they had 365 gods for 365 days of the year, because the principles go beyond, you know, they can be subdivided, but the main ones are 7. There are more. There are more than that.
Okay, so I have the thing that I've been burning to talk to you about, the idea that I've been burning to talk to you about archetypes.
Yeah.
I think this is the place where it fits well.
These guys are spilling all the beans.
The 7 archetypes into one being.
Yeah.
That's Jesus.
That's it. That's true.
And if you congeal all of the sins
Yeah.
into one being,
Yeah.
that's Satan.
That's it. That's it.
And you can choose to so you can choose
You've
which way to
unlocked it,
follow.
TJ. Hey.
Right. So I think what the Bible was trying to say when they said there is only one true God,
Yeah.
you should not follow idols,
Yeah.
is what I think could be an interpretation of that. The Christian will tell you what they're saying is that all these other gods are idols.
Yeah.
You have to follow the God of Abraham.
Yeah.
Quite literally. I don't think it means that.
That's not what it means. You're right.
I think it means if you focus on just one of these seven, or one of the, even we can divide the seven down.
Yeah.
You need an understanding of all of them.
Yeah.
But if you focus on just one,
Yeah.
the rest, you won't have a balanced thing, and you'll become, if you just focused on war, for example,
Yeah.
then you'll just become a war guy, and you will have no love in your heart.
Yeah.
You won't have all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
You cannot split. You have to evenly distribute your attention for all of these things.
Yeah.
Hence, following the one true God, the combination of all of them.
Yeah.
That's my feeling on it. And I had another thought there, but I lost it.
But that was brilliant, bro. That's literally what it's talking about, because we need to further break down that the purpose of the universe, okay, which we might talk about it today or maybe another time, but the whole purpose of creation is balance.
That is going to be an episode in itself, with the symbol of the yin yang that I've got to talk about.
That is deep. It's all balance. So the reason why the African would also stress, because I went further down into, everything you said about Christianity is totally true, but why wasn't it handed down to us in this Gnostic way? Why didn't they tell us, look, what you just explained now, that this is what exactly needs to be going on, and not literally talking about someone in the Middle East? Because that was the confusion. That was where
because man had got in the middle of the story.
He had
for
his own
gain. And by the time it came to Africa, the Romans and the Catholics had already got in themselves.
There was a different agenda back in it, yeah. But in the African conception of things, you have to render homage to all seven. In the Akan tradition, in the Hoodoo tradition of Ghana, West Africa, they were divided among the 7 days of the week. So in those 7 days of the week, you had to perform a sacrifice. Now, the sacrifice is...
I was just thinking about sevens.
See alignment.
And now I was thinking, the fist of the North Star, he has 7 holes in his chest. And I was thinking, where are all the places sevens come up? And the one that is smacked me right in the face when you just said it is 7 days of the week.
Yeah.
So each day was dedicated to a different god?
There you go. And you would have to perform a sacrifice. Now, the sacrifice is layman's term for dedication. Okay? How do you get a kid to clean his room every day? You need to put an alarm clock. You need to, write it down on a timetable. You need to do something physical that reminds him every day that he needs to devote himself to cleaning his room. Now, it will come to a point where that becomes automatic. He doesn't need to set an alarm. He doesn't need to write it down. It becomes part of him. So the sacrifice, there may be offering a goat, a chicken, a this, a that, or even time, was a reminder. That was the alarm clock. Because we need to understand there is subconscious language. These things are all subconscious languages, subconscious expression to bring forth balance. Okay? It's
Jordan Peterson says something about sacrifice,
right.
and he said the ritual of sacrifice. He has a feeling that the ritual of sacrifice was done in ancient times
Yeah.
because we had not conceptualized that we could create our future with our mind
Right.
yet. So you would sacrifice the lamb,
Yeah.
the blood, the whatever for today.
Right.
So the act of sacrificing is to forego something today in order to for a better tomorrow, for a better
Right.
future.
Yeah.
So we hadn't we had the ritual
Yeah.
to conceptualize that,
Yeah.
but we had not progressed to the point where we could just stand in the conceptualization of it
Right.
on its own.
Yeah. It wasn't internalized. Yeah.
It wasn't internalized.
Yeah.
And I think, you could say that maybe it's not needed. The actual sacrifice itself became obsolete
Right.
once we could visualize that in our mind.
Yeah.
So you don't actually need to sacrifice the animal. And we were primitive minded more. We're getting more intelligent, we're understanding. So you go back thousands and thousands of years, we had no like modern science, we had no all this stuff. So they're trying to figure out our understanding of the world, performing rituals, doing this stuff.
I would be careful to say that going back in time they were more primitive and they were less intelligent.
Well, okay, the field of knowledge by which we have acquired and the way knowledge is distributed now. What I'm saying is your ability to understand the world around you was, maybe you understand lots of things in dimensions by which we've forgotten now.
Yeah.
And we don't get. But you have to admit, if I want to understand the concepts of love, I can just go on the internet and read up everything and see all knowledge on that, see peer-reviewed results and this and that and the third. Back then you're relying on maybe 3 to 20 people for all of your knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in that regard, I would say yes, but nothing is new under the sun. And remember, there was still a principle of gatekeeping this kind of knowledge, because it also triggers an opposing effect. You understand? Is people understood that, look, if we're gonna work with this, you can't just go to the layman and tell him, look, I just discovered the secrets to the universe. This is it. Apply them. Who would lead? You will still need leaders. So these things had to be filtered all the way down to the layman in such a way that he could understand, or he could be coerced into leading a balanced life without him even knowing it. It could be put into the culture. Do you understand? He would. I don't know. You go to Africa right now and ask majority of these babalawos. Yeah, this and babalawo is West African for priest. Okay, for those who don't know, ask these babalawos, why do you need to sacrifice a goat when the spirits don't drink blood? These are entities, spirits. They don't need physical things. He will tell you, no, that's what they said, that's what the people before me were doing, that's what XYZ was doing, that's what we know how to do. They don't know it. He is the layman. He is literally the layman at the very end of the chain who's been handed over this secret, but through culture. So there is still being gates kept. He's not allowed to enter the chambers of real knowledge. Okay? So he's still a slave. He still had to be kept where he is for this specific function, because someone else had to lead. That's why, they knew exactly what they were doing. Whoever was handing down this knowledge knew exactly what they were doing. They just needed leadership to be in the right spaces. If you were not ready to access, imagine you had access to this knowledge, TJ, And the last time we're talking about, you being on the streets, militant, and doing all this and manipulative. Imagine you had access to this knowledge back then. What hazard could you not do? I mean, people think,
what
oh,
hazard?
I mean, you would be a menace, mate. Imagine how exploitive, how manipulative, how coercive you could be, even with other people. Because you were doing this strictly because you wanted, I don't know, financial gain or an ego stroke or whatever was in it for you back then. But right now, this is power. You would be using these methods for power. If you like, what do people who have sects around them do? They're using these principles for the sole purpose of power, to wield power, the ability to dictate, choose, and sentence people. This is the principles they're using. Charismatic people, church pastors, all these people we see rising to the top, they have an awareness of this. But what are they using it for? Pure power. Just I can wield this power when and how I want it. So imagine you had access to this. That is why gatekeeping is also very important. You can't just hand this over to anybody because he could have not mastered a certain aspect of his life and then he has access to all this knowledge. What is he going to do with it?
So I just have a question let's just go back one step.
Okay.
The concept of 7
Yeah.
and 7 days.
Yeah.
Do you believe that each day was dedicated to one of these disciplines?
I totally believe that.
So, therefore, are we supposed to be living that way now?
That is a question I might have to go and ask the gods. No, I'm joking. TJ, we are looking for balance. Okay, myself, my loved ones, my next of kins. I believe you as well. And the way forward seems to be the way back because we've lost track of so many things. We've been put into this cycle, this rhythm, the 9 to 5, the 12, the 5 days a week, 2 days weekend. It's a rhythm that we've been encapsulated into that is just creating more and more illness, more sickness. So
we need to break.
There you go. What was the
break the
what
5
was the
and
way?
2?
Exactly. What was the way before? Now, if each day, so the Monday, the first day of the week, Monday represents emotions. Tuesdays represents action and reactions.
Where are you getting this from?
This is basically just shadowing. I mean, from Jung's. I'm using syncretic knowledge now. I'm just picking from previous, like I'll take from Hinduism, I'll take from Christianity, Gnostic Christianity, take from Jungian archetypes, and take from African cosmology.
Right, but don't those 7 days map onto the 7 archetypes?
They map onto the 7 archetypes and the 7 planets. And
so not only should we be taking one day not only should we be acting in some way in line with these 7 archetypes, but we should be acting in line, or we should be focusing in some way on these 7 archetypes on the specific day in which on the specific day in which they are mapped to. So if you tell me that Monday is mapped to emotion,
yes,
I don't know what that matches to in terms of the archetype.
So you want the specific African archetype, or you're talking about the principle?
The principle. What does Monday map to principle wise?
So
let's make a key. Let's make a key and say, all right, Monday is this.
Yeah.
And then the next leap would be, how do we apply this knowledge to our Monday?
Right. So to do that, I am going to have to take, because I was gonna get that ready today, but we know
So
we are stuck in a rhythm.
we'll have to save this for another
We're stuck in a rhythm. But what we're literally talking about, if we want to now bring it down to the principle, okay? Let's start with the days of the week. Okay, so Monday all the way to Sunday. In Western culture, they're seen as the planets, the luminaries in the sky. So Monday will be the moon, Tuesday will be Mars, Wednesday will be Mercury, Thursday will be Jupiter, Friday will be Venus, Saturday will be Saturn, and Sunday will be the Sun. Okay,
Right.
are you still with me, TJ?
I'm with you.
Now, so Monday, the moon is known as an emotional body because it controls the waters of the planet. And
Right.
and since we're three-fourths water, we are affected by a full moon, a quarter moon, a half moon, a rising moon, etc., etc. Depending on the position and intensity of the moon, we are directly affected. It controls the tides of the waters on the earth. So automatically, and water is, as the Greeks conceptualized it, symbolizes emotions. You're sinking in water, you're drowning in water, was symbolized by emotions. Waters always symbolized emotions.
Right.
Okay, so now we move on to the second day of the week, Mars, the god of war. So I would say, okay, let's give it a principle for Monday so that we can carry on and try to do this. I would say correspondence, as above, so below, can be Monday. The principle of corresponding to what is up there, bring it down to earth.
Okay.
All right. We'll try to do this on the go because I was going to sit down and proper do it. Tuesday, Mars, the god of war. So now I understand that in ancient times, you could see these planets on the horizon, on the before the rising of the sun. Each day of the week, these would be on the horizon. That's why they were called, according to these days. So on Tuesday, you will see the planet Mars on the horizon before the sun was at its peak at noon. And
Right.
Mars represents war. It's a fiery planet, fiery element, fire. I would say the principle is cause and effect. You need to act on something.
Okay.
Now we'll go to Wednesday, Odin's Day. In Norse mythology, it was Odin's Day. Mercury. Mercury represents the mind, the ability to think in a certain way. Okay. In mythology, Mercury was also known as the messenger. He was known as many things. The principle here is what kind of puts me off because I don't know whether to give it mentality or vibration.
Okay.
So this is also uncharted ground. I need to do more research on this. But
Okay.
I would like to put it as mentality. Let's try it with mentality. Okay, for Wednesday. Thursday, Jupiter. Yeah, big dick energy. This is rhythm. Jupiter was the chief of the gods. I'm just using the story to kind of understand how we can align ourselves with the principle then.
Just name the principles for now.
Yeah, so
and then we'll try and come back with you and me are fumbling in the dark, trying to understand without, because even if you even if you assign yourself a teacher,
Yeah. He's doing the same. He's probably in the
the
dark as well.
even if you assign yourself a teacher to such a thing, it's difficult to know that the teacher doesn't have his own or her own agenda or format based on whatever they believe.
Yeah.
Just to quickly add a story, I spoke to a girl from the Dominican Republic this week, a friend of mine. She's actually an ex-girlfriend of mine.
Right.
And I asked her about Pompagira, Mummy Water,
Yeah.
all of this kind of stuff, which she knew very much. And everything that she discussed around it, I think, as I was telling you, led back to Christianity and how, right? Because now she's born again.
Yeah.
And all she wanted to do was tell me how, with Jesus, someone asked her to pray, and then someone did this, and
TJ, you need to be more respectful about these. These are people's experience. Come on, bro.
Look, I'm not here to rubbish anyone's experience, but what I find is that
narrow,
extremely low resolution. People are so desperate for truth.
Yeah.
People are so desperate for help, and there are. Did you watch the film Dune?
I have.
The main protagonist, Paul, is going to a planet.
Yeah.
They're going to a new planet, and he is supposed to be a deity in the film. And he says to the head of the religious order, but I'm just a normal guy. I'm not a deity. I'm not a whatever. And the head of the religious order says, we've been putting the groundwork about your coming as a deity for thousands of years. Now, how many years has the groundwork for Christianity been going? And if you're aligned with it, I think a lot of people view Christianity as like, especially in the West, as like, some people view it as like rubbish and whatever. But there's a thing inside where it's like, oh, if he's a Christian and he's genuinely a good guy, he's whatever, he's God, these sort of positive stuff comes along. So you've already got your school, probably you sung hymns, you've done all of this stuff. So even embedded into our leadership structures. So God Save the Queen. America's built on fundamentally Christian ideals, right? So built into your culture is so much, and then you have a hard time in your life, and someone comes along and gives you some Christian principles that work, or that help, or that seem to work, or that seem righteous, and you just hold on to it.
Without exploring more. I understand.
You don't need to delve any deeper. You knew it all along. You just never went along with it. And so you have this low resolution look, and you're already patterned and programmed. And you will not go, you find every justification not to. You become the world's smartest, and you are possessed by that.
By their ideology.
And I come across so many guys that are like that. There's so many. It's, to me, it's so frustrating because it's not even about winning an argument, but you cannot, once you say God said, or once you start saying about throwing around God, you are no one can pinpoint or no one can defunk what you say. because now it's a higher being, saying or speaking or whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't even know, where the context of the thing God is. You couldn't even explain it if you tried.
Yeah.
But you use it to debunk everything else. It frustrates me to the max.
I know. But let's not lose the point. We were talking about the principles.
Excuse me.
Yeah, we need to get this out for the people. There's a lot of gangsters out there that need this patterned up. So then we move on from Thursday. That will be Jupiter, and we've assigned it the principle of rhythm. And the next one is Friday, and that is the goddess Freya or Venus. And I would like to assign gender.
What does that mean?
So the principle of gender, this one is actually quite interesting. The principle of gender says gender is in everything. Everything has a masculine and a feminine principle. Gender manifests on all planes. So everything, like it says, everything has a positive and a negative, a masculine and a feminine, an up and a down, a plus and a minus. It's in everything. I guess it's encouraging seeing beauty stand in between these lines and just see the beauty of it. Just see it for what it is. It's neither good nor bad. Just see it, which is different from polarity, though, which we're going to go into.
But gender is in the fabric of nature.
Right.
In this context.
Yeah.
Positive and negative charge, or would that be polarity?
So polarity goes a bit, I think polarity goes a step deeper into it. And I quote, so in polarity, which would be Saturday, okay, Saturn, Father Time, says everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes.
So gender is more about balance.
Exactly. Polarity is more observing. I don't know, just taking note that it's the same, but at a different degree. So evil is the same as love, but at a different degree. Hate, I would say, not evil, hate. Evil would be the opposite of good. So and that would be assigned to Saturday. So do you understand why?
I would say it like this, like the sort of power, or the energy needed, or the energy consumed by what we would determine as hate.
Yeah.
The equal amount of energy will produce the same, but in the realm of love. So like the way that love would the way that love would trigger with you,
the
way that love would impact you would work in the same way, to the same extent,
to push someone away,
to create hate. I'm fumbling for the right kinds of words, but it makes sense in my mind in terms of.
So it's meant to do exactly this. These principles are not meant to be uttered, because I don't know. I'm still a student. I don't know if you have actualized and you're an adept, but I'm still a student, and what means is that I can conceptualize them, but I need to learn how to convey them. So this is where artistic and creative knowledge comes in. you remember the other time we are talking about Kanye not being, we're actually supposed to talk about Kanye. I don't know why he's not
Mhm,
even, but we're talking about how he poorly conveys his message because his medium is music, not words, just plain
mhm,
words. So you might have someone else convey it through art, someone else conveys it through code, someone else through dance, but we're meant to convey this in our own unique way. And some people are
mhm,
just, Jordan Peterson will come out, or I don't know if you've heard of someone called Ben Shapiro. These people are
mhm,
masters at words, man. You can't beat them, and they just go at it.
mhm,
That is their
mhm,
medium. It's just words.
mhm,
Yeah. So you need to find. I have struggled with this because speaking so many languages, I have to borrow words from different languages. So I'm interpreting as I go, and I
mhm,
have to find another medium for this. And I found that music and visual representation, so videos, has helped me quite a lot achieve this in some way.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And we now come to the sun. The sun. And the principle that I give to the sun, I assign to the sun is vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. How beautiful is that?
Well, this makes me think of the atoms in everything.
But that's true,
When
bro. Yeah,
when someone explained to me that I'm just a cluster of vibrating atoms,
yeah,
and the atoms in me vibrate in a harmonious way,
yeah.
and they vibrate in such a way that it creates a barrier
Mm-hmm.
between my being and the air around me.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I pick up an object in my hand, I'm picking up another harmonious vibrating set of atoms.
Yeah.
And if you observe this at the right resolution,
Mm-hmm.
there is nothing in between all of those atoms. It's just it's just space,
That's it.
which is but the atoms vibrating together create all existence around us,
That's it.
all of the
Light. Yeah.
boundaries, all of the perception of color,
Yeah.
all of the surfaces and textures and densities and liquids and gases and solids is just groups of vibrating atoms. And if we manipulate those atoms into certain groups, certain shapes,
Yeah.
we create
Molecules.
light bulbs and
Yeah.
cars and
Yeah.
beds and knives and every conceivable buildings and everything that we create, and even life
Yeah. Yeah.
through sex.
Oh,
It's an
yeah. Yeah.
incredible system. That is so that has brought me onto this, that train of thought. That is my definition of God in a way. The structure by which all this is what I've been working on the last year or so, trying to understand what is God.
Right.
Bomba clutch.
Massive
These
question.
guys are spilling all the
If you want to
beans.
think deeply
TJ
about it,
and
or if you just
Campbell,
want to accept
interesting to
whatever
blood
you're told,
clutch live on
I
YouTube.
don't see God as a being. I see God something like the rules by which all exist, all the rules by which everything exists.
Yeah.
So in the physical realm, this system of vibrating atoms, it's all based on rules,
That's true. Yeah.
and living within those rules is righteousness, and living outside of those rules is, or trying to go against those rules, is sin.
Sin literally
Some
means missing the mark.
missing the mark.
Yeah.
So, and that principle works for whatever the realm is that exists with consciousness,
Yeah.
in the realm of consciousness. So perhaps Sunday is the day we acknowledge God for real, not necessarily in church, listening to a preacher that, you know, reads from the Bible
Yeah.
or from whatever, but the day when we acknowledge the rules of existence
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
part we play in that. And
But you see how opening your consciousness to these seven principles have also done something in your consciousness, like in your psyche. You are connecting some dots. So there is a reason why. I mean, I've always sustained this, that on Friday it just feels like the air is different. It's like you want to love. Why do we go to the club on Fridays? It's more of a thing. Yes, people go to the club on Saturdays, but real clubbers, it's Friday evening. You're trying to
I,
get this
but
nookie,
but
bro.
but how do we know that this is not as a result of the 5 and 2? Like I want to follow you here. I
Yeah,
really want to follow,
I know.
but it's like we're still just fumbling so much in the dark. I really want to grasp these principles, grasp the concept,
Bomba
and
clot.
then understand how to apply it.
Right.
And I don't know where to gather that information, really.
I think this is where I think African spiritual systems fit in like a glove, because where documentation has failed to actually provide, how to use these instruments, the African method has provided oral um, handover of how this needs to marry. So when you read any story or you go through, the various stories of Shango, Eshu, Yamaya, and this and that, you find that one three triumphs over the other, and they need to get married, they need to get balanced, they need to fight this one. In some cases they lose to this to specific ones, but what happens is that each one prevails over the other. So
Mm-hmm.
to now bring it to your question, what should we do on specific days? I think it should be more of, how do you feel on these specific days? What
Mm-hmm.
comes from within? How can it be matched with what is outside? So um, you might come to a point where you might have to take action over certain things, over certain situations that are happening in your life, in your personal life, or in your environment. What principle can you count on? What quote unquote archetype? So that would be Ogun. So you say, okay, it might be a Wednesday, it might be a Friday, but you need to take action that day. So in the African storytelling, it would be maybe Ogun falling in love with Oshun. Friday, anger, wrath, or I don't know, action and reaction, falling in love with gender. And how does this marry on? They get married. You have to follow the story. You have to read the intricacies, what goes on in the story, and how they're able to resolve their problem or these various problems. This is where I found that, yes, the tradition saves the pattern. It helps people with their day-to-day life and what they have to do. For instance, there was an uncle was telling me that in Africa, you really never had a date of birth, because no, there was a different calendar. You just knew the day you were born, and then that day you'll be dedicated to this, you know,
Well, my dad doesn't have
entity.
a date of birth.
Do you understand?
Mhm.
And that was also to erase time, and from you having this rhythm that we've been given. At 18 you need to be on this, at 21 you need to be on this, at 30 you need to. That it was done on purpose so that now the child, the individual, now finds his path. So I find that oral stories have given this, how would I say it, flexibility, rather than the written version that comes from the West. I don't know if I made my point, but
You did, and I have a question.
okay.
Do you think the different schools of information that miss the mark, but perhaps are more popular, um, that have proven to keep people in bondage
Yeah,
with the perception that they are righteous,
right.
or perhaps they are the capoeira of religion, where it's really beautiful to look at and you'll be great flexibility and keep fit, but if you got in a real fight and tried to do capoeira, it's not very effective.
Hmm.
Do you think that these substitutes or watering downs were implemented somewhere along the line on purpose, with the understanding of the esoteric truth, in order to gain control, in order to divert away from um, true knowledge, in order to stifle, control, and manipulate? Or were they just also blind to the true knowledge and just utilizing, in the moment, what they could to create something like the Catholic Church, to create, control in that manner, but they weren't necessarily understanding that they were, corrupting, they weren't willfully corrupting those other systems, the original systems, let's say the Hermetic laws, the African laws, the what we're trying to get to the bottom of here.
So just to get the question right, we're talking about Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could even throw in Jehovah's Witness, you could
Bomba
throw in,
clot. These guys are spilling
I don't
all the
know, maybe
beans.
Buddhism, I don't
TJ
know.
and Campbell,
Okay.
interesting to blood.
So I would say yes, because there was a purposeful persecution of any other doctrine, or like the Council of Nicaea, where Constantine sits down with these lots and says, okay, right now we're going to choose which books go into the Bible and which do not. We're going to choose to deify Jesus despite, he was born flesh and blood. We're going to deify this person. We're not going to have these books. So they knew exactly what they were doing. And, it was all
Why?
purposeful. Control,
Why?
bro. Power, control. You can't have what, a peasant. Imagine. So I am a driver, okay, and this is what I tell people. I tell people I'm a driver. I drive and I do deliveries. I hand over whatever they are ordering online to the to their door, to their doorstep.
Mm,
Do you understand that because I do this job, people think my view of the world is like a peanut. They
mm.
literally think I have nothing else going on in my life, and my contribution to this universe is insignificant. Okay, so now how do they come up with this? Why do they think this? Because they obviously think, and to some extent are certain, that I don't have access to this kind of knowledge. I wouldn't understand. It's like giving bones to a child. So imagine, they would just say, okay, your life is expendable. Why? Because you don't know these things. You don't know the seven principles. You don't know how to apply the seven principles. There's nothing else going for you. You're just a cog in the machine, a sharecropper.
But those guys are not living by. Okay, so those that placed this control,
Yeah.
they themselves are not living by these seven principles.
So the way I've understood it, and this is obviously subject to interpretation, but the way I've understood it is that once you know what is really going on, you have a choice to make. Whether to
Okay.
be Jesus or Satan. Because at the end of the day, nothing is gonna, it's the consequence is your choice.
Who would choose Satan? Why?
But have you ever heard of Frankism?
What is Frankism?
Frankism is a sect of Zionism that basically says in order to make the world a better place, we need to purify evil by practicing evil. So in order to dig out,
Thanos.
boom, there you go. And you see how they put these themes everywhere. And if you don't know, you just watch it. It's a nice movie.
Because you can almost go along with, like, Thanos's theory is,
Yeah.
it's not like you can almost go along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Kevin.
Yeah. In order to purge out evil, you need to practice evil. That is Frankism. So these people are, and we come back to the same principle of polarity. They are actually doing good because they're trying to get rid of evil by sacrificing babies, killing babies, pedophilia, wars, greed. Just indulging more and more control will bring more and more freedom.
Mate, whoever thinks that is,
But that is it's a principle. It's a principle of the universe. I mean, this. Come on, TJ. These guys are what you want to compare our status to theirs? They've literally on. This is in practice. We are still doing everything in theory. Because look, I'm gonna tell you this, yeah, and I dived into it a couple days ago. I started looking into the LGBT movement, right? And we're gonna do a whole subject on this, yeah.
Don't get demonetized. Don't get demonetized. Don't get fired.
Bro, I think look, this is Akbarapa, yeah. We need to say how it is. Bro, but do you see how they are polarizing every single person that is coming out with this kind of sensitivity? Okay, because at the end of the day, this is what it is. It's you're sensitive to a certain vibration. They're trying to polarize these youths to just, go and get in the batty. Stuff it up your ass. Or what it really means is not that you'll have a problem with, the cultural depredation, the cultural rape that is going on. It's that you really want a dick up your ass. That's what it really means. And every single thing in every degree just means that. You want to change your gender? That's what it really means. But what if this feeling, this sensitivity that is rising inside a lot of human beings that are coming up now is they're starting to smell the coffee. They're starting to see that, look, this culture is literally is gone. It's not, we can't sustain this level of rape. But no,
I'm
no,
not
no, no.
following. I'm not following you
All
here.
right. So
let's relax on some of these words,
Topics.
direct words.
Okay. So when we talk about someone who is, can I say moist?
Moist.
Yeah. When we talk about someone who is moist, we're talking about someone who is highly sensitive. Do you agree with this?
I'm not sure the context of the word moist here.
Someone who is homosexual.
Okay, when you're talking about someone who's homosexual, you think they're highly sexual.
Sensitive.
They're highly sensitive.
Yeah, to a certain vibration. So we see that they're either very artistic, very creative, very emotional, um, very expansive. Do you get my point? Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes,
So
I'm just trying to
whatever,
see if I go along with that. Go on.
so whatever is moderate in the normal, day-to-day person, in the homosexual, it will be heightened. So he'll be highly expressive, highly creative, highly etc. etc. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
now, I mean, I've looked a bit into it. I'm still, playing with. I've got the books. I need to go through them. So we're gonna have to tackle that as well. But what I notice is that where these people are receiving this kind of message, that is aligning within them. So they're feeling, look, with my creative energy, I want to create more love, okay, more peace, more of this, more of abundance. A certain group of people in society, and we've mentioned them before, we don't want to mention them again. A certain group of people in society say, no, in reality, you need to come out. Baby, you need to come out. You're a
Right.
girl, or you are this, you are that. You need to express yourself in this way. This is really what you need. You need something up your XYZ. Okay? This is so now they kind of subverging the whole sensitive, whatever the person was feeling, which was bringing about change. It's now being polarized entirely to a sex. For example, um, uh, artists, yeah, they start
Mm-hmm.
making art and they're kind of sensitizing a certain topic. Okay, let's talk about, I don't know, women. Okay, the treatment of women or treatment of animals or the treatment of anything you wanna put, in highlight. So when they bring, there's a certain way they bring this to life, and when it's too much, when it's so intense, and it's uncomfortable for even people that are, moderate, what do they say? Oh, this guy is homosexual. We kind of categorize highly sensitive people as same sex people. This is gay. That shit is gay, or something like that. Whereas they're just trying to raise, convey some sort of sensitivity. I don't know. I'm kind of eating my own words. It's also very late, so I don't know. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for us.
I
But
think this is a subject we're gonna have to just come back to. I am struggling to follow exactly what you're trying to say,
I'll have to polish it out and yeah,
and
and bring it back
I
up.
am I am also flagging. I am. It's the end of the day.
It is, mate.
We must have been online for like 2 hours at least.
We have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've covered a lot. I think this is a good place to put the pin in. But the thing that I've taken away here more than anything is that we need to investigate deeper the best way to utilize our
Por Dios, pero esos
understanding
tigres no son fáciles.
of
Déjate Campbell, los del
these
podcast Barapá,
7
donde se ha
principles
catado
that
con
we
su nocera por
find
YouTube.
in plain sight, hidden in
Even.
plain sight, all over the place.
That's it.
Including the 7 days of the week.
Yeah.
You know, all sorts of things around these principles. So let's get onto this stuff again, talk more, see what else we can research and come up with, and hopefully get to the bottom of these ideas, and hopefully reach self-actualization for ourselves.
That
If we
is the
can
goal.
we can avoid war, and this Putin guy and Ukraine and everything, man, it's crazy.
That is the goal, mate. That is the goal. To be self-actualized, to be able to go up the pyramid ladder. Let's say the pyramid of needs.
You know, the self-actualization or the hierarchy of needs is also the Eye of Horus.
Mate,
This is crazy. This is crazy. It's actually a pyramid that someone drew.
yeah,
When you get to the top, you see everything. Ah,
bro,
it's so.
we need to go deeper into this. We need to go deeper into this. But like you just said, today maybe is the beginning. We might have more of this type of conversation, but we should also understand that in all this, there is the medium between the unconscious and the conscious is sexual energy, right?
The medium between the conscious and unconscious.
Anything that is brought out from the unconscious to the visible spectrum of light to the conscious needs to come through sexual energy.
You mean any new thing is birthed?
If it's coming from the unseen, it's coming through sex. And now we have been taught to see sex as, stuffing stuff, in whatever places, which is one aspect of it, penis and vagina, but sexual energy goes way beyond that.
Okay, well.
So that is the medium, and we're gonna go through that. We're gonna go through that, bro. We're gonna go through that. So
I'm curious to know more.
yeah, man. So today, Tuesday, the 1st of March, our recording ends here. This is Campbell.
This is TJ.
And it's been a pleasure from us. Enjoy our little tune, and hopefully you join us next week. Bye.
Peace.
That's it.
All right, I just ended the Twitter. Whatever happened there, I'm not sure.